Coming up on Look Today, Park Commission's proposed regulations to make permanent the boat inspection and decontamination programs on Lake George have been approved. I've got the details. And New York Farmers Bureau opposes $15 an hour minimum wage, and I've got some details on that. It's all ahead on Look Today. Welcome, everyone. I'm Jay Hood Jackson, and this is Look Today. Well, in tonight's program, I sit down with Robert Altman. He's the president of WMHT. And we talk with Walt Lender. He's the executive director of the Lake George Association. Plus, we have your weather for the Tri-North counties. But first, these headline stories. Well, in our lead story, New York Farm Bureau says Governor Andrew Cuomo's proposed $15 minimum wage would force layoffs and drive up food prices. Now, the group's board of directors visited the state capitol on Wednesday, urging officials to keep the barn doors open by opposing a pay hike. The Farm Bureau stated that a $15 minimum wage would cost New York agriculture an estimated $500 million in additional labor costs alone. Now, the Farm Bureau isn't the only group that opposes this wage hike. Healthcare industry leaders joined the growing list of parties opposed to the plan. The Healthcare Association of New York said during a budget hearing that the hike would cost hospitals $570 million. The group says hospitals can't afford this because reimbursements are limited. The Business Council of New York State also strongly is opposed to the $15 minimum wage. Now, with all this controversy, we want to know your opinion. You can head to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Look News. You got that? I'm going to try that again. Facebook.com/Look News. And please tell us what you think. Changing from news to weather. After some sunny skies this morning, let's see how the rest of the week is shaping up. For the latest, let's head to the Glens Falls Weather Center for a look at your first forecast. And back to the news. Well, construction of Warren County's new court complex is expected to begin this summer, with the first phase of the $16 million project to be done in as little as 17 months. Well, county leaders got their first look at the building plans for the new family court wing to be built at the north end of the county courthouse. Now, among the new information was that the ring road around the municipal center will be moved 10 to 15 feet north on the building's north side, and the main secured entrance to the court complex will be moved from the building's north side to its west side. Now, a secured, what they call a sally port area for prisoner transports and a prisoner holding area will be added. And visitors to the courthouse will notice a number of issues as construction begins. Now, these issues will include closure of the north end parking area and other parking sections that are being used to haul in and out equipment. County leaders have discussed naming the new complex after the late former family court judge J. Timothy Breen. He died earlier this month. Now, he was the family court judge for 15 years and was involved with the project's design before he was stricken with cancer in the fall of 2014. Now, we will have EDC President Ed Bartholomew on Beyond the Headlines this weekend to discuss this story further. Also in the news, Lake George Park Commission Executive Director Dave Wick announced that the Park Commission's proposed regulations to make permanent the boat inspection and decontamination program have been approved and are expected to be in place by May 1st. Now, it also appears that the state funds to run the program are in place for the upcoming season. In previous years, the governor's budget proposal for this fiscal year include money to pay just for half of that inspection program. The other half has come from local municipalities and nonprofits, including $30,000 per year from the Lake George Association. Well, we caught up with the Lake George Association Executive Director Walt Lender, and here's what he had to say.
It's something that we've been seeking for years, something that's very necessary for Lake George. really is the best way to protect Lake George against any new invasive species coming in.
As we previously reported, the Lake George Association Board of Directors voted in August to commit $90,000 over 3 years toward this program. Now, this is part of the Lake George Association's commitment to protect Lake George water. A public hearing on the regulations is required, and the hearing is set for March 28th at Bolton Town Hall. Now, we're going to sit down with Walt Lender to discuss this more in depth later in this program. In other news, a former landfill in Hague could be on the real estate market next year. Now, that's since Warren County officials learned the site appears to have no significant environmental problems. All 3 properties in Hague, Johnsburg, and Queensbury have significant amounts of taxes owed on them, but the county has been hesitant to foreclose because of the possible environmental problems. The county paid for environmental reviews through money raised at tax auctions. Now, after having DEC staff look at the reports from those analyses, county officials are optimistic that at least 2 of the 3 properties are not in need of major cleanups. At least part of the 4-acre piece of property on Dump Road in Hague was used as a private landfill for decades, but testing of springs on the property found no contamination in the water. Now, it would be feasible for the county to try to sell the properties in the 2017 tax auction. Well, coming up, I sit down with Robert Altman. He's the president of WMHT, and we discuss public programming and how it helps our community. Plus, I sit down with Walt Lender. He's the executive director of the Lake George Association, and we discuss recent news with the association and the plans for 2016. But first, if you see news happening, you want to share a story idea, or join us for an interview, give us a call on the hotline. The number is 798-8000.